dolls, it's Emmeline. So today's video is very exciting and a little bit different. So I feel like normally my videos are pretty happy and positive, but I got a request to do the conspiracy theories of Marilyn Monroe. Dun dun dun. So I was a little nervous about posting this, I'm not gonna lie. I still am, because I know that I have some young followers. The majority of my followers are in the age range of 18 to 34. So I know this is like perfectly fine for you guys. And even for the younger followers, like when I was younger, I always grew up watching Dateline or like 60 Minutes, like all of those like little mystery types of shows. So if you guys are younger and you guys don't feel comfortable watching this, you guys don't need to watch this. You guys can totally go check out some of my other videos. I have more like Marilyn Monroe videos on my channel if you guys want to see those. If you guys just don't want to hear about death or anything like that, this video in no means is going to be like gory or like super weird in detail. I'm just kind of like basically giving a little background history and talking about the theories and basically just giving you guys like my input on what I think happened to her. If you guys like conspiracy theory videos and want more on old Hollywood stars, then be sure to subscribe to my channel. That way you guys can be updated when I do post those. And if you guys do want more of these, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and also leave a comment down below telling me which conspiracy you guys would like to see next. I feel so weird doing this because this is so not me, I feel like, but it was requested. And this is something that I have been into since like when I got into college. I got really into the conspiracies of Marilyn Monroe, so like 5 or 6 years ago. So I think it'll be fun to share this with you guys. Alright, so before we get into the conspiracy part, I do want to give you guys like a little background of Marilyn's history, her upbringing, all of that stuff, because it definitely plays a role into some of the conspiracies as to like what happened to her. And also, just in case you guys don't know anything about her, you guys can learn a little bit about Marilyn. So I have a notebook here, so if I'm looking down, I'm just looking at the notebook because I don't want to forget anything. I always film videos and then forget what I'm talking about. So let's start. So Marilyn Monroe was born June 1st, 1926, and her mom was mentally unstable. So it resulted in her mom being put into a mental institution. So due to that, Marilyn Monroe was kind of pushed back and forth between houses that she was living at, and she was put into foster homes. So obviously if your mom is like in a mental institution and you're being thrown back and forth to different foster homes, that has a huge effect on you. Even just her mom like handing down her mental disease, you know, also has a lot to do with all this. So Marilyn did get married fairly young. I believe she was 16 when she first got married. She always knew she wanted to be famous. She didn't really care that much about money, but she wanted to be just like known by the world, and she wanted to be loved by the world, which is obviously she felt the need to be loved by a lot of people because she wasn't when she was younger. So when she was like in her teens, she started to do some like photo shoots, like being more of like a cover girl, pinup girl type of thing, as opposed to like an actress. Then she came in contact with someone and they said that she needed to have blonde hair if she wanted to be famous. It's actually so funny because my grandpa had told me, he's like, if you want to be famous, which I don't want to be famous, but he was like, if you want to be famous and well known, you need to dye your hair blonde. And it's just funny because I think the mentality back then was that like blondes were a little bit more like well known for whatever reason, or just would become more famous. So it's kind of funny that, you know, that's how they are. They also decided that they needed to change her name. Her name was actually Norma Jean, and Norma Jean didn't sound like a famous celebrity. So they changed her name to Marilyn Monroe, and they thought that Marilyn just sounded more theatrical and more like a famous person. So personally, I actually love the name Norma Jean. Let me know what you guys think, but I do think that Marilyn Monroe maybe sounds a little bit more glamorous. Fast forwarding a little bit, she ended up making 30 films, and in 1962 she was filming her final film. She didn't know it'd be her final film, but this is when she passed away. So in 1962, she was filming the movie Something's Gotta Give. It's actually pretty cool because I feel like a lot of people are probably wondering like, what is this movie Something's Gotta Give? I've never heard of it. And that is because she passed away as they were like in the middle of filming. But you guys can go to YouTube. I believe it's on the Marilyn Monroe History YouTube channel. They actually have as much of the movie as they filmed. I believe it's like 40 minutes long or so, and it's really interesting to watch and to just see how she was like in her last like few months of living. You can definitely tell that there's like a little bit of a difference from how she normally was. Something that I think is actually really cool is that when she passed away, they actually still continued to film this movie, but they filmed it with like new cast, and it's actually with Doris Day, and it's called Move Over Darling, which I was so surprised about. I learned this, you know, like 5 or 6 years ago when I started researching all of this, but I had watched that movie before Move Over Darling, and I never knew that it was supposed to be like Marilyn's movie, so it made me kind of sad. But you guys should definitely watch Move Over Darling and Something's Gotta Give, because they are great movies. They're super funny, so I think you guys will really like those. During the filming, Marilyn was married to Arthur Miller. They were married for 4 years, but during like the filming, their marriage just went down and they ended up breaking up. So that had a huge toll on Marilyn, obviously, because I think this was her 3rd marriage that she had. And she was married to the baseball player Joe DiMaggio before that. So obviously this has like a huge toll on how you feel. And I mean, if you're getting like a divorce with someone, then you have to go to work and try to be happy on top of all the other issues she had. It was very intense. So due to that, she was depending more and more on pills, and she was drinking her pills with champagne. Marilyn Monroe is like known for drinking champagne like all the time, but mixing it with pills is really bad. Marilyn was actually manic depressant, so that's basically the same thing as bipolar. Well, it is the same thing as being bipolar. So obviously she had like these huge mood swings. She could go from being really happy to like feeling really miserable, and she was on medication for all of these things. So I think that she just had like so many different medications in her that it really affected how she was acting. Every movie that Marilyn had ever filmed, she was always late, and a lot of them went over in cost production. This one went over in cost like $1 million, I believe it was, because she was constantly not there. I think she only showed up for like maybe half of her filming days that she was supposed to, and she kept calling out with like colds and just saying she didn't feel good, and saying that she had like bronchial issues or she had allergies, like all that kind of stuff. So on top of having the medications for her psychological issues, she also was getting medicated for all of these other issues that she had, like all these sicknesses. I'm sure most of you guys know watching this that Marilyn did have an affair with JFK, the president, and that is a pretty huge deal. And obviously they wanted to keep it a secret, because if that got out, that could totally mess up his race with the presidency and everything like that. It's not something that you really want to be displayed out there for the world to see. During this time period, Marilyn got asked to sing at the president's birthday, and the directors and everyone did not give her permission to go, because she had already missed so many days of filming, but she didn't care. She went anyway. If you guys have ever seen the clip of her singing Happy Birthday, it is so bizarre. Like, it is so weird to watch. I always like joke around and I'll like sing it, because she was singing it in such just like a very like deep tone, and it's kind of like a little uncomfortable to watch. It's like one of the most like memorable moments though, because it was so different. And whenever I show like certain people, like my friends, they get like kind of freaked out, because it was kind of spooky almost to like see her like that and how she was singing, and she was definitely had champagne and like medication, so it definitely was just affecting how she was acting. June 1st, she turned 36 years old. She was obviously always known for being like so beautiful, having the most perfect figure and everything like that. And now that she was 36, she felt like she wasn't beautiful. Even like when they were filming, she always said like, you can't get any close-up shots of my face. And if they did get a close-up shot of her face, they had to put tons and tons of filters over her, because she just looked so haggard and tired from the insomnia that she had and from all the pills and everything. So she was very self-conscious of that, which I think had like a huge role in the upcoming events. So again, she still wasn't showing up to work. Soon after that, she got fired. To make a long story short, she ended up convincing the producers and everyone in the cast to come back and to start up the movie again, because what happened was when she got fired, over 100 people lost their jobs because of that, because they decided to shut down the production completely because it just didn't make sense to keep going with it, and they were so far over budget. They were like $1 million over budget. So she felt really bad because people started to now blame her for everyone losing their jobs. So she had like all this pressure. When she finally got rehired and production was starting up again, she felt so much pressure that she had to be perfect and she had to do everything so good on set that it definitely got to her. So fast forwarding to August, this is where her death comes into play and all the conspiracy theories of what actually happened to Marilyn. So according to her housekeeper, Mrs. Murray, and according to some people who had talked to her on the phone, basically she was supposed to go out to a dinner party. She decided to stay home. She told her housekeeper that she was gonna go to bed early. She took the phone into her room and locked the door. Peter Lawford claims at 7:30 she called him and sounded really just like her words were really slurred. She didn't sound okay. And I'm gonna read you guys what she actually said to him, and I just want to read this actually from my phone, that way I get everything right. When she called Peter Lawford, she said, "Say goodbye to the president and say goodbye to yourself because you're a nice guy." And then her voice faded out. So obviously this is a huge thing, and he didn't really know what it meant. So he got in contact with people, but they didn't get to her for, I think it was like 5 hours or so. And so when the housekeeper went to go check on Marilyn, she couldn't get into the door. So she went out back to the window and she looked into Marilyn's room, and she just saw Marilyn laying on the bed, face down, and it was obvious that she was unalive. That long kind of intro, let's get into what we actually think happened to Marilyn. So I have a website, which I will link down below. It has basically all of the different like thought of reasons as to why she died. So I want to like read most of it from this website, that way I just don't get anything wrong, because I mean, I've watched so many documentaries and read so much on it, but I just want to read it like firsthand to you guys, because sometimes when I'm filming my brain gets kind of groggy and I just want to make sure everything is okay. So basically one of the theories is that she decided to take her own life, and the reason for that is because, like I said, she's bipolar. She's going through like a manic phase where she just feels really bad about herself and doesn't want to live anymore. She obviously could have just reached over. She had tons of pills that were prescribed to her, taken those with her champagne, and then decided while that was all going on that she was gonna call Peter Lawford and just tell him goodbye. So it's obviously like the easiest, most reasonable answer, but this is where it gets really weird. So I'm going to read this firsthand. Does the coroner's report stated that Marilyn's death was due to a massive overdose of 47 Nebudol capsules, but this is weird, there was no trace of drugs in her stomach or evidence of her having taken the tablets orally. Then it was claimed that it looked as though her body had been posed on the beds, her legs were stretched out perfectly. So basically what happens, which I've learned from this, is that if you do have a drug overdose, your body is most likely going to spaz out. You might have like a seizure. Obviously your body is not going to still be laying straight and like perfect if your body, you know, spazzes out. Most of the time they said that whenever they find people who have taken a lot of drugs, their body is kind of like in a weird placement just because of how their body reacted to it, if that makes sense. So they said it didn't really make sense that her body was like perfectly laid out. Like it looked too perfect. It looked as though like somebody had put her like that. Then they said that key forensic evidence went missing shortly after she passed. All of the key witnesses from that night, such as police, friends, psychiatrist, her attorney, and her press agent, contradicted each other. They have several have changed her stories. So a bunch of the people basically who were with her changed their stories, and all of their timelines just like did not match up whatsoever, which makes it seem very confusing that this is how she actually died, because something is just obviously not adding up. So the next theory is that her housekeeper, Mrs. Murray, and her psychiatrist, Greenson, basically gave her a barbiturate to calm Marilyn down, because if she was like in a manic phase, a lot of time what they do is they'll give you something to calm you down. So basically they're saying that they gave her this to calm her down, but she already had other drugs in her body, so they reacted, which resulted in her passing away. The thing was too that was kind of weird is that when the police arrived, her housekeeper was doing laundry, even though she knew of what had happened. There's a bunch of other theories that people purposely did this to her due to her like affair with JFK. A lot of people believe that he was responsible for this because he didn't want people to know about his affair. A lot of people think that his father did it because they didn't want people ruining his son's chances of obviously being president. People said that a member of the Rat Pack did it. There are so many different theories. Like there's on this website, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So on this one website, there's tons of different theories of like different people who could have done it, but they're basically all leading to protecting the president. So with all of that being said, I remember the first time I saw the documentary, I was like when I first started to get into it, I remember thinking like, it's the housekeeper, it has to be the housekeeper. And then I was like, no, it just doesn't seem likely that she would do it. Like it doesn't really make that much sense. And then I was like convinced that somebody did it because of her whole affair with the JFK. And I was for the longest time like so convinced that that is what happened. And I feel like so many people to this day are still extremely convinced that that's what happened. But in all honesty, after being reasonable and having like looked into this for years, I honestly just think that it most likely was a drug overdose and due to her own fault. I think that she was super depressed, and it was really obvious that she was really depressed, and I just think that it would make the most sense that she's the one who did it. And it's kind of hard too, because some documentaries and books and whatever make it so obvious that it was like the Kennedys, and they make it just like really seem like it was them, and other ones make it seem like it was her. And I think that at the end of the day, we're never really gonna know what happened, but I think we all have our own opinions on what happened. And I think I could still very easily get swayed to either thinking it was the Kennedys or it was Marilyn's own fault. I think it's obviously such a tragic thing that happened to Marilyn. Either way, even if it was self-induced, because it's so obvious that she just wanted to be loved by someone and she just wanted to have respect from people. A lot of people said that like she mentioned to them that like she wanted to be just like them because people respected them. And I think it's really sad, because I think that's what happens with a lot of people who are famous. They think that being famous is gonna make their lives so much better and everyone's gonna like have respect for them and everyone's gonna love them, but at the end of the day, that's usually not how it is. And at the end of the day, most people who are famous are the most miserable people you will ever meet, because they have so much pressure and so much going on, and they just feel like they're never, you know, doing enough or doing what they should be doing. And I feel really bad for Marilyn. I wish that like there was some way that we could have just like said something to her. I feel like she just needed like that like motherly figure to really help her and to, you know, make her feel like everything was okay. When it's all said and done, I really don't know like what happened to her. I am so curious to hear what your opinions are and to hear what you guys think happened to her. I think so many people have like very strong opinions as to what happened to her, and everyone like thinks that they're very right with their own opinion. So I think that we should all be open-minded and be nice to each other in the comments and not like beat each other up based on our own like opinions and thoughts of what happened. But that is it for this video. I am so nervous to post this video. I really hope that people don't take this like the wrong way, but I know there's like tons of these on YouTube and everything like that. But I love you guys so much, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye!